Hey everyone, so the video went up a day late. I do apologize. I was super busy yesterday. I went into Hollywood after work to apply for another job. I need extra funds for cash and stuff, and I'm gonna stabilize right here. There we go. I need, I wanna get a car. I don't have a car, and that's pretty big for me, and it's doable in Los Angeles, but it's hard. So I went into Hollywood and I made a few stops, and as you saw, I was at the Hollywood and Highlands Center, and thus I had to stop at Sephora. I had to stop at Sephora. I didn't buy anything. I don't have cash, but I was like walking in and like smelling and looking at all the pretty things and like all the makeups. And I had to stop into Hot Topic because where I work are having a bunch of like themed days during the summer for pop culture references. So I was like looking for Pokemon earrings for this weekend and non-existent. And I was so sad. It was like all places, Hot Topic should have them. Anyway, so I had to come home, so I don't have a car, so I take the metro, which is doable. And I heard a train coming, and by train it's a subway. I heard a train coming and I was like, oh, I gotta get it. And so I tap my tap card and I race and I miss it, but like 2 friggin' seconds. Like I ran like almost at the door as it closed. As I was trying to race down there, I almost tripped over 2 people sitting on the ground, and not normally where people would sit in the metro. They do have benches, but normally people don't sit right there. But I did notice they were holding a sign, so I was like, oh, God bless. I almost tripped over homeless people. So I didn't think anything of it. I put my headphones in, I started playing some games on my phone, and then I looked back over, and it was this guy and this girl was visibly pregnant, like massively pregnant. And I looked at their sign, and it said homeless and pregnant, have severe mental health, or not severe mental health, but it was like have mental health issues, and need to eat but won't steal, or something like that. And I was looking at them, and the girl was crying, and the guy was just like, her head was on his lap, and and maybe I did go over it because it said mental health, or maybe I didn't. I don't know, but I went over, and I bent down and I was like, listen, I don't have any cash, but I do have a granola bar. Do you guys want it? It was my hypoglycemia stash. I always try to keep at least 1 granola bar or some candy in my purse just in case. And she started crying a little bit more, and she's like, thank you, and the guy's like, yeah, thanks. And I leaned over and asked her when she was due, and in a month and a half, 2 months. And I was like, if you don't mind, what mental health issue do you have? Because I suffer from anxiety and somewhat depression. And she's like, well, I have bipolar disorder. I was diagnosed as a kid, and I can't afford my medication, so it's kind of one of those things where they chose to eat whatever money they do get. And unfortunately, in Los Angeles, unless you have like a valid residence or something, you can't qualify for Medi-Cal, and even walk-in clinics for that type of medication. I don't know what people take for bipolar disorder, but it's probably more expensive than what I take. So if you do know, please let me know in the comments, because I have no clue. It's not something I've researched. I'm not quite sure what you guys have to take. But we talked a little bit about what it's like. I asked her what it's like to be homeless and have mental health, and that really spurred me to make this video today, is that if you look back into society, a lot of the times, and in our history, people with mental health were always treated as diseased. They were put into insane asylums. Even people who had just like depression or anxiety, they were taken away from their families and put into an asylum. It could be as minor as mild anxiety to, you know, hearing voices or something like that. And nowadays, a lot of people do have these mental health issues that do not allow them to work, or there's multiple reasons. Yes, and sometimes they do lead to like drug abuse. But I have, you know, met through, I'm one of those people who will stop and talk to homeless people if they do not look scary and I don't feel like my safety is in danger. But you wouldn't be like, oh, I had depression and my wife left me and it just went downhill from there. And there's still such a huge stigma when it comes to mental health, and I'm very lucky that I get the help that I do and that I have the love and support, because not everyone has that. I mean, I can't imagine. I would never go to Skid Row because it is considered quite dangerous, but I can't imagine how many people there have mental health issues that they just weren't able to get help for, or they, you know, and the society has pushed them away. You know, I'm very glad that I live in the society that I do, and it's more common and more accepted to have a mental health issue. But it also breaks my heart that there are people out there on the streets, and that's the reason why they're on the streets. It's like, you know, it stops them from forcing people to work. I've met some people who literally their bosses didn't know how to handle it. And I'm very thankful I come from a very wonderful environment with my bosses, and they understand if I need to take a minute, but not everyone does, unfortunately. And it's one of those things, you just be surprised. You don't know what everyone goes through. Mental health is an invisible disease. And I want to break that stigma around this invisible disease, because you look at me and I'm like, I seem great, and then there's sometimes I go quiet, but you would not think that I'm harboring something that I take medication for every day. So when you see someone on the streets, you know, just give them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, sometimes they're really scammy people that aren't just good people, but for the most part, they're probably having something going on up here that they weren't able to get help for. And it just, when I was talking to this lady yesterday and what she was telling me about, like, her life having bipolar, being off her meds, it sounded scary, and it just makes me so sad. I guess that's it. This is a long-winded kind of like epiphany I had, you know. And everyone is going through something, and I like those little charts that's like, they think your life is like, your goal's here and it's always like this, right? No, your goal is up and it like wavers. So one of these days, you know, one of my big goals, one of my 100 bucket lists is to raise $10,000 for mental health charities. And maybe I will add, if there isn't one, I'll look, but getting people homeless, who are homeless, getting the medication that they need, or maybe even starting a something like that, or maybe like an urgent care. I would love, there's only one urgent care in Los Angeles for mental health. There needs to be like a million more. Maybe one of these days I'll open my own. But thanks for listening, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. There's much more to come. If you like it, hit that subscribe, all that fun stuff. But until next time, guys, Sláinte.